What's up, party people?
Oh, hello.
Rocking the hell out there.
That was incredible music.
That was great. Yeah.
Suno.com. A robot made it.
Wow. Bill, you're out of a job.
Yeah.
Bill, you're out of another job.
Yeah. Well, I figured they were coming from my job, so I'm going for the musician's job.
Yeah, well. What are you gonna do? Yeah. It was fun. It was nice. So what are we doing today? What's the deal?
I have no idea. We've got no meeting. We got to figure out something, man.
Yeah, jeez.
We're vampalicious. I figured rather we'd catch up on the weeks going on, but we could also turn this into a meme stream.
Meme stream. All right.
I have a classic going. I don't know what I want to do with him yet, but he's just kind of chilling here on my artboard, waiting to be turned into something glorious.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I figured this can also be just like a community meeting, right? Where we opened it up. We have some people that wanted to join us from our people from our chat. We can also, anybody that's live in the chat that wants to join us, you can jump on.
Wait, is this real?
Uh-oh.
I don't know. I'm blocked by Kate. I can't see.
The Red Metro Worcester. Hold on, I'll look at it.
Oh, good Lord. Thankfully, Red Metro gave us a screenshot, Bill, so you can continue being blocked and still... What the shit?
That's awesome. Frickin' A. Wait, I can't open that.
Everyone's blocked you.
Oh, here, I got you. I'll just show it.
In the chat, yeah.
Sure. Thank you,
Lord.
Kate.
Hey. That's great. She also tweeted "I stand with Israel" hashtag, which was pretty cool. Hold on, I have a screenshot of that I can throw up.
Sally, there's no meeting this week, so we're kind of just talking to y'all. We're gonna have some people on. If anybody wants to join us, Sally, if you want to join the stream, send a message.
Hop on.
We'll DM a link. I've been watching a lot of Chris Gethard's show, and I figured this can be like our own little call-in show where we talk to the weirdos in the community, weirdos like us, mind you, and see who else is out there.
Yeah, you have something you want to talk about? Let's talk about it. Ready? Watch this. 11:01 p.m.
From Earth. What is the what's with the backwards hashtag?
Yeah, I don't know.
Understand how hashtags work.
I support Israel hashtag. That's great.
She just supports Israel hashtags is what it is. That's yeah.
Right.
Nothing to do with the nation state.
All Israel hashtags.
Gate support.
Guys, I'm doing my taxes right now.
Oh, nice. We were just talking about taxes.
When you're an independent contractor, such as I am, This shit fucking sucks, dude.
It sucks.
I have to do so much math.
Let's work together, Bill. Why don't you throw up your screen and we will
Do your
we'll do
taxes together?
Yeah, sure.
Who in the chat is familiar with Banford's Law? Because that's the most important part of phoning in Bill's taxes. You familiar with Banford?
No.
So this is the mathematical equation, right? No, it's we're due Wednesday, Massachusetts, Patriots Day, motherfuckers.
Yeah, state
Yeah,
holiday.
we're special. Bamford's Law is the equation that the IRS uses. It's a mathematical law that it's kind of like the way random numbers work and the way that they can't work. And when people think that they're just like choosing random numbers, they're actually not. Random numbers follow like a pattern, which means they're not really random. But so yeah, the IRS uses this. It's a really simple tool that the IRS uses to figure out who's cheating on their taxes and just making shit up.
Really?
It's the pattern that like 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s are actually likely to fall in any number set. And they just use algorithms to just pull out of the stack, the big digital stack of returns. Who's phoning it in?
That's awesome. Good thing I just don't file it.
Yeah, that's better that way.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not. It gives you agita.
Yeah, it's they take a lot of money from you when your money comes in off of 1099K. They take a lot of money from you.
Yeah,
which means that you have to just report basically everything that you spent money on over the past over the year, and then fuck. Oh yeah, this is a story that I have not followed up on, but I've been meaning to. The Clark professor that got mad, something, they quit. Let me see here.
Well,
I'm going to be learning about the. It made the Wall Street Journal. That's great.
perfect.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Oh, but you need a subscription, so I am not reading that. Karen Reed, jury selection started today. I wonder who Turtle Boy picked.
Yeah, that got served to me by like Wall Street Journal or some kind of major news outlet.
What's his name? Did a piece on Aiden's influence over the trial at the Telegram today. It was actually pretty well read, or pretty well written. But
who did?
Brad Peterson.
Oh, Brad Peterson. Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that he grabbed it, but it still is actually halfway decent read.
Cool. Yeah, this is going to be a fun show for me because I've only been doing my taxes. I haven't paid attention to Worcester news for like a couple of days now, so I'll be learning everything as it hits me.
Ooh,
this will be a live Let's Keep Bill Informed stream.
Yeah. All right, everyone, do my job for me. Let's go.
Well, I mean, it's open newsroom, right? Anybody have any good story pitches Bill should know about?
Yeah, this would have been the perfect time to do an open newsroom. We'll just call it that.
That's what it is. Here on out.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Yeah, here we go. Clark University Holocaust Study Center had exits for warmer welcome and Assumption. Saying she felt a warmer reception as a Jew and a scholar at a Catholic university, the former executive director of Clark University's Strassler Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies announced in a Wall Street Journal editorial that she was leaving Clark for Assumption. I can no longer function effectively at an academic institution that thinks shouting a speaker down is tolerable, but introducing a speaker with whose views people disagree isn't. So seems like there was a story there. Good riddance. I'm sure Clark will be better off. Pretty funny though that the genocide department director, yeah. But what are you gonna do? All right. What is the date on Sunday? Do we know? Anybody know?
Coming Sunday?
Hold on.
Yeah.
My calendar will tell me. It
420?
is 21. 420 Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know.
amusing. Go ahead.
What's amusing?
That I don't care about 420 anymore.
Yeah, why would you? Every day is 420.
It's a
And that's
holiday
what
for
happened.
New Hampshire.
Yeah, right. Every day is 420, so just do 420 every day. That's what you do, right, Travis?
Basically, that's how I live my
Yeah.
life. Crafty Matt asks, what's the procedure to getting a petition before the council?
You have to file it with the clerk's office before, I think the deadline is Friday at noon. If you just call the city clerk's office, they will let you know. There's no process for getting signatures or anything like that.
There is an online petition form now. I'm going to share it in the group chat, and
okay.
Travis, you can pass that along.
We making Nico Gosling?
420.
I felt like this was appropriate place to start. What was that, Brendan?
So where else would Bernie be on 420? Like that's, I mean, like
Yeah.
if you had to ask me to guess, like where Bernie is going to be at any given weekend, it's Vermont would probably be my first guess.
Wouldn't you? Vermont sounds pretty nice.
Well, I mean, that's where he lives.
Yeah.
How do you blend the hair there? Wow. Jesus.
What a wizard.
That's incredible.
I am a magician. When my friends were playing video games, I was playing Photoshop.
Brendan, you saw Civil War, right?
I did. I saw it on Saturday. It was absolutely fucking incredible. Really fucked with my head.
I heard it was really good. I want to go see it. I haven't been able to get over there yet, though.
I don't think the trailers didn't do it justice. I have to imagine that this was A24's biggest production so far. And I kind of get, after watching it, I kind of get the sense that they framed the trailers to really draw in a crowd because of the size of the production. So they definitely positioned it to be more of like traditional action film. It wasn't that. I mean, it was that. But it was. It really is like. I don't even know how to. I mean, it's like a love story to like the institution of journalism. It's like
really?
Institutions in general, I guess, is.
Huh.
Yeah, it's not at all. I don't want to give. I'm trying to be careful not to give anything away, but
yeah.
And just that, I mean, like most A24 productions, the sound for this one that's the thing that actually fucked with my head. This is the first movie I've ever seen where like they got gunfire right, and not just like gunfire, like you see a civilian firing an AR pattern rifle, it sounds like a 55 grain 5.56 in an AR pattern rifle, like a civilian rifle with a civilian muzzle brake. And like there's like the sounds are so distinct throughout the movie. It was very, very jarring sitting in a movie theater. Like I don't normally get shook with explosions and stuff like that. Like it was totally catching me off guard sitting by myself. I found myself jumping in my seat more than once when like I'm normally the person my ears are so deadened even if I'm at the range. Like that the same sound in real life doesn't bother me at all. There it was really fucking with my head.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm excited to go see it. You saw it at the what is it? The West Boylston Theater, right?
I did.
I love that little theater.
It was myself, Juliet Feibel, her husband, and just some random 85-year-old man with hearing aids who didn't seem nearly as bothered by the audio as I was.
That's sick.
I like Juliet Feibel a lot.
Yeah, cool. That theater is such a fucking. I was saying to Travis before we came on, like what a gem that place is. That like you can go to a movie, like a new release film, on a Saturday afternoon for $6 and basically sit by yourself.
Yeah. It's so old school in there too. I've only been there for like one movie, but I gotta go. Ryan Gosling head on Nico's body.
Yeah, that's We can make that happen.
That's the next one.
So I don't know if we want to do it to like people that have subs. I don't know if we want to milk it that way or if we just want to do whatever the best idea is. But I'm down to clown however you guys want to do.
We'll just do whatever the fuck.
We'll just do whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I'm catching up on my news right now, and I'm reading the Karen Reed trial Turtle Boy story. This ought to be freaking good. Man.
I am still really curious as to where the federal inquiry on that is going.
Yeah, I know. I haven't heard anything in a while.
At all. It's like the only thing that's come out is both sides of the case seem to be indicating that they think it's favorable to them. And that's not how things work.
Uh-huh. I just think it's funny that Karen Reed is acting like a mafia don. Like she bought Turtle Boy like a new car and shit for his like continued coverage of the case.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. There's been some stuff like that.
The whole thing is very, very weird, and I don't know. Like I've got neighbors that have free Karen Reed signs in their front lawn. Like I can't think of any time that people. Maybe OJ was the last time you got invested in like a criminal proceeding.
Yeah, it's he's done a good job making this into something that people even know about. Just like really wouldn't have been. The Canton cover-up, dude. It's such a mini QAnon. I love it. I'm just skimming this article for new stuff. But nah, nothing too illuminating in there, but it is really funny. And I don't, there's no way that any verdict happens that's not like entirely that like people can go along with, you know. Like the case is fucked. There's not going to guilty or innocent. It's just like no one's going to believe it.
Yeah, it's a crazy interesting case.
I would be really fascinated to find out if this sort of thing is happening elsewhere, where like if there's going to end up being a trend in regional criminal proceedings due to people's fascination with like true crime and whatnot. If like this sort of like local involvement with court cases that otherwise would just be ignored, right? I mean, nobody pays attention to like pre-trial fucking hearings, and this
right.
This one has had hundreds of protesters in every one. There's like fights breaking outside of them.
That is an interesting way to kind of look at it, is that like this is a true crime story that was invented in real time. Not a retrospective. It's like applying like the true crime intrigue to a crime that hasn't reached a verdict yet, which is pretty funny.
I was listening to somebody describe Twitter recently as like, you know, something that was created to be an entertainment medium that then started taking itself seriously. It's precisely how we ended up where we are. And I feel like you can kind of see this here. Like, I mean, if you go down the Karen Reed Twitter rabbit hole, like you will find a lot of people who fancy themselves, experts in murders, in dog bites, in car crashes. And they're just fucking random people who watch a lot of Netflix and listen to a lot of like obscure podcasts.
Yeah. That's all you got to be. Doesn't have to be any more complicated than that.
No, makes you an expert.
I mean, like it was the anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombings. Don't you guys remember how many people turned into internet sleuths when that shit happened?
Dude, that was wild to watch in real time. Like on Reddit in particular, like Reddit within hours was, I mean, it went in two directions. One, there was like the weird conspiracy folks that clearly have never been to a city before, which I found really jarring. Like you had people that were from small towns that couldn't understand why they were like, they believed the government was involved. And that's why you had like people in tactical gear at the race itself. Like no ability to parse the idea that the New Hampshire National Guard is attached to a special forces unit that specializes in bomb detection, and they've been they're at every event, like whether you know they're there or not, they're there. And then it was like within an hour, like those idiots were like incorrectly identifying people around New England for like ruin people's lives.
Yeah, genuinely did. There was a dude early on that like the internet people suck. Like they pinged him. It was an incorrect person, but they like just obliterated this dude's reputation, and he had nothing to do with it.
Meanwhile, there actually is a really interesting backstory there that I can't remember her name, but the journalist from Boston who's been kind of covering it on her own for a couple of years. She just published a book last month.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But I mean, like, she's one of the only journalists in the area that was covering like the trips that the state police were making with the FBI down to Florida years in advance of the bombing, investigating a slew of murders in Metro Boston that have all been lightly attributed to the older Zarnev brother, but nobody have all managed to go unsolved. Yeah, if it wasn't for that bombing, we would never have realized that the Mass State Police effectively got into a sword fight with a kid in his apartment somewhere in Florida, while he was being investigated by the FBI in conjunction with the state police. Some really fucking weird shit.
The fun thing about Substack is that you have to manually total up the money that Substack and the associated payment system Stripe takes from you for each transaction throughout the year.
Stripe doesn't churn out. Stripe turns out a W-2 for me, I thought, or W-9.
Stripe? I have a 1099K. I don't get a W-9 is not the right form, but thank you for that. A lot of good feedback on the rental registry story. It was very embarrassing and depressing to have to get into why city council is not real. It could just be a real government body, but it's just flatly not. I do really like, and I think we should expand on this show, the idea that city council, it has primarily been a reality show for disgruntled senior citizens more than it has been a government body for a long time. I think that George and Candy, especially last Tuesday, really showed that it doesn't matter what they do so long as they just get mad the way that the people want them to. So very, very sort of Trumpian, very, very close, more close to a reality show than any sort of public policy. And that's why we can't have nice things.
It's why we can't have nice things. How do you think that gets fixed, Bill?
I have no idea. It's like we like flirted with the idea that like elections could fix it, right? But I don't know about that anymore.
The thing that, I mean, reading your piece on the registry, the thing that I can't shake out of my head is that, but there's also a process there that's broken, where like the council, we see this every week. Like all it takes is a half a dozen to a dozen angry, loud people to show up, and that sways the views of the people, the councilors who are most easily frightened.
Right.
But without any adults stepping in to say, wait a second, are these 6 to 12 people actually representative of the body they claim to be representing? Like, when you had the Mass Landlords Summit at the DCU Center 2 months ago, like, was that actually representative of landlords? Because I think we have way more landlords than showed up at the event, or probably even knew the event happened. Like,
right.
And like, as a city, like, we can have fun, like even like shit talking landlord. For all we know, like landlords could be like there could be like a collection of the greatest people in the world who like are totally empathetic and whatnot, who we wouldn't know because it's like the same fucking 6 people show up to represent. They've anointed themselves Lord of the Landlords, and like there's no process to actually run interference on that at all.
Right. And like that being those people being the ones like the Neil pulled it out in his write-up on that, is that one of the landlords that showed up, I think it was Madulka, was the guy who pulled the building permit for the roof that collapsed on Mill Street. It's
really?
Yeah. It's like, not only is it just a small handful of landlords, it kind of seems like it's the worst landlords.
Sure.
In the city. So, yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's my point, Camber, right? Is like, we have two landlords here who seem like halfway decent people. I mean, sure, Yenny might have people handcuffed to a radiator in their basement for all I know, but I'm going to go on a limb and say probably not. And yeah, it's
got to get dog food from somewhere. Go ahead.
No, it's just,
sorry.
We allow the conversations of the city to be dictated by people who superficially may seem representative of a body, but we have no way to actually tell that that's the case. And nobody stops to just say, hey, who the fuck are you actually speaking for here? Like yourself or people in general?
Right. Yeah. It's a tough one to figure out, man. I don't know how you change it. I mean, like, drowning them out is the only way, I think, but you have to win elections to get to drown these people out. So
that did go dark. Main South Mom, sorry.
in the short term, I think that encouraging Eric Batista to ignore the city council is kind of the best card that we have. It's kind of clear between this one and this rental registry in Mill Street that Batista left to his own devices would have been better than Batista beholden to this weird thing that's looks like a city council but isn't.
And that still ends up being the one body that can make him go away, which, I mean, they won't do it till it's they wouldn't do it immediately, but that's the part that's shitty as well, too. Like, they have a relatively unintelligent group of people wields the biggest hammer over the one person in the city who could potentially do something meaningful.
Yeah. That's really... And what are you supposed to do with that,
I was like, can we simplify that and put it on a flag? That's like the Worcester way.
Yeah, just the dumbest group of people that you've ever met.
Yeah, and that part, I mean, that is the part that sucks, because we, again, not knowing who's actually being spoken for, and then having some, that would have been the time for, and he kind of did a little bit, for Eric to just speak up and be like, you guys fucking voted for this. Like, this is right. I put a lot of work into this because y'all supported it 2 years ago. It was one of the quickest votes in the history of the city council. They spend more time talking about trash bags, whatever.
Right, yeah.
Taking recounts on revotes or whatever the hell. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Stupid.
It is, in fact, stupid. I'm checking to see if we've sent out the link to anybody, because we had it in our story that random people can join. So at any point, people may just show up. I'm not sure how that's going to work.
That's pretty sick.
Try and filter some of Bill's Nazi friends if possible, but otherwise, say game on. Or maybe not.
I literally described that to Nikki before we started. I said, this should be an interesting stream. We either may get a bunch of cool people from the community, or we may get Bill's Nazi friends. Yeah. And Nikki's like, Bill has Nazi friends? And I'm like, well, they're not really friends.
I really, really, really like that you guys are putting that out into the air that I have Nazi friends. I don't see what could go wrong with that.
Somebody clip that.
Yeah.
No, it's those terrible
at all. Yeah, just say that I have Nazi friends without explaining it at all. That's great. Yeah.
Perfect. We're going to leave that right there, right? Nice, big, long gap.
Yeah. Nice, big, long. That's it. That's all.
Have you heard any more from those group of idiots out in California? Have they left you alone for the most part?
No, they keep registering me for Denver City Council meetings. And I actually had to call a reporter in California because they called me a neo-Nazi and said that I called into like the Fresno City Council meeting.
Whoa.
Without being like the caller identified themselves as Bill Shader.
What was the reporter's reaction to their complete lack of interest in doing any sort of research before publishing somebody's name?
Oh, there's another one here. Cool. You know what? Fucking who cares? Here we have. I can't keep making calls to like correct people on this shit. I'm just not gonna try. It's like it should be obvious, but this one here quotes me as a Nazi. Where is it? Oh, it looked like it was in here. Oh no, okay. So this one has. I'll share it on the screen.
You've been busy in La Mesa.
Oh. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at right now. No one steal any of my tax information if that comes up by accident. All right, we're all in agreement. We're all in agreement. That's how it should be. All right, add to stage. Here we go. Near the end of the public comment period, a speaker who identified himself as Bill Shaner, who said he lived down this way, claimed the Holocaust never happened. Criticized the U.S. and Britain for bombing Nazi Germany, where supposedly lived one of the most virtuous, enlightened peoples to have ever been known in our modern times. Well, that's great. So I could try to contact this reporter, but I'm just not going to. Whatever.
I mean, I know everybody's algorithm is a little bit different, but I did just pop your name into.
Hold on. Got you. I was saying to myself, "There's no way that should happen," and then all of a sudden, it did.
I didn't know that closing the tab would pull up the next tab. That sucks.
It shouldn't, but no.
I just Googled your name in a incognito mode, and like your actual work is what comes up first. Like even if you put Nazi after your name, like it's still your work comes up first. So you would think that these the folks in La Mesa would have an easier time realizing how they're getting played.
Yeah, that's why I'm not super worried about it. What did Oh, good. Okay, my social security number wasn't on the screen. That's awesome.
Hell yeah! Solid use of the rock emote.
That's pretty sick. That's good to know. I did have to check that. You know, I get 3 years of doing this program, and all it gets me is my identity stolen. What is this? The AI chatbot that edits newspaper reporters, whips them to get. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Guillermo had a tweet thread today about how difficult it's been to unsubscribe from the Telegram, like how they harass you and everything. And I get my card that I had on file with the Telegram expired, and I started getting calls every day from people that claim to be in Northborough that were like, have you renewed your subscription to the Worcester Telegram and Gazette? And it's like it's worse than any debt collector I've ever had to deal with. It's crazy. So I put that on my list of stories to do, like cancel my Telegram subscription on purpose to just like document what happens, because they don't care so much about providing good journalism or hiring enough reporters to do it. But man, if you try to let go of your subscription, they have infrastructure for that. It's very telling. Very, very, very telling.
That sucks.
Yeah, Telegram sucks, man. And it's not even the Telegram. It's just they're owned by like the worst people alive, you know? So what are we going to do?
Yeah, I don't know that how long we can actually exist though in a world where like most people say they get their news from TikTok.
No, I don't
think that ends well. Like no shade to TikTok. TikTok's important. I'm not taking that away from anybody, but I just don't know that that's where, going back to the marathon bombing, right? Like in that case, it took like an hour before Reddit could ruin somebody's life. TikTok can pull that off in about 5-10 minutes.
And it happens every day. Happens every day. That's a fair point.
Let's just almost have some.
There are some journalists on the platform that are doing it correctly, but there are plenty of others who are rushing to get the lead headline and the views.
I mean, and of course, there's a generation. I mean, Taylor. I actually love Taylor Lorenz. I mean, they spend a lot of time covering TikTok, right? I mean, I'm not knocking the reality of social media. It's just, I don't know. It's just too easy for it to get fucky.
No, I agree.
Yeah, we need to start producing content for TikTok. Basically, is what you're saying. Is this where it's the only place where anyone goes?
Well, up until it gets banned, right?
Oh, come on, please. It's not going to get banned.
Oh, I don't think it's going to get banned.
No, they just want a holding company that pays U.S. taxes.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to get banned. I don't think they can do that.
How could you
No.
ban? The only thing that would happen is that it would be pulled from the stores. So it
The
would
only
just
people-
no longer be supported.
Right. The entire base of the Democratic Party is on TikTok. Like, how are you going to get rid of like 40 to 60-year-old suburban mom's main form of entertainment? Right? Like that would be so self-defeating.
Yeah.
I heard a really bleak take that 8 hours for what you will is screen time.
I had a really okay. That's really bleak. Yeah, 8 hours of screen time. If you're getting 8 hours of screen time, I just want to say, do a little bit less than that if you can.
Start playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
Wait,
that doesn't count as screen time.
daily 8 hours of screen time? That would be amazing.
No. Well, yeah, 8 hours of screen time a day would be crazy. But anyway, yeah. Book club Thursday. Who's coming?
Yeah.
Who's coming? It's gonna be fun.
Who's coming with me?
Oh, it's gonna be a good time. I ordered bookmarks, but they haven't come in yet. I gotta check on that right now.
Have we got any updates on where in the country Bryan is?
No, they didn't respond to my text.
Well, what the fuck? Oh yeah, Bryan was down on
New Orleans.
Nolens.
Yeah.
Nolens. Yeah.
I really want to go to that next year.
Yeah, it seems sick.
The hot dog safari they do down there. The one they do up here is rad, but the one they do down there looks absolutely insane.
Is it going to be crowded at Rewind? Yeah, probably. But the coffee shop's going to be open, so you can come down and get a cup of coffee. Nice. And if you don't want to come, it's going to be streamed too, so you can watch it on the stream, which is going to be weird. In Thursday it will be here too, but also at Rewind Video / Cordella's Coffee. So. The coffee is really good too. Hold on, let me grab the link for all the information on that.
I could do that for you, Mokro. I wanted to point out that you're socially anxious, but so is most of us. So you should totally come because you'll be in good company.
Yeah. Plus, I'm the one that has to lead that thing. So
Y'all just have to be there.
you have to be there. I'm the one that has to be the most anxious about it. So let's not get into a competition about who's more anxious about it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's gonna be a really fun time. No one needs to feel anxious about it. It's gonna be friendly, friends and friendly thing. However you say it. And we're gonna have some bookmarks, I hope. But I can't.
So I could show those off if you want.
Yeah, show them off. It says that it's shipped, but I'm trying to figure it out.
I should get you some magnets to hand out as well.
Yes, you should. I can fix them up, or if you can come drop some off.
Yeah, I'll drop them off at the store.
Will you have bracelets to say "I'm anxious"? Please talk to me. That's awesome. That's such a good idea.
We can.
I won't talk to you. You talk to me. I think that's great.
So this is what the front of the bookmark looks like. Or I'll pull down the comment. That's the front. And this is the back.
Look at that. It's lovely. It's
Super
lovely.
cool.
Super cool. Thank you, Travis, for that design. It's really cool.
Excellent.
Oh, pleasure.
Oh my God.
Bill, have you gotten word at all as to what kind of changes Eric was going to be making to the registry?
Yeah, I mean, he already proposed them. There's not a lot of changes, honestly. The fine goes down from $300 a day to like $50 a day ish. It's like the cost of registering times 2.
Okay.
And then the fine for not getting your building inspected goes down a small amount of money too. And the deadline's extended. But in putting that piece together, I looked around at what other rental registries are and do. And it is crazy how, like, already off the bat, insufficient Worcester's is, Other cities use registries to like track exorbitant rent increases and evictions to like target the landlords that are being like extra punitive towards renters and violating tenant rights.
Right.
And Worcester's has no way of doing that.
Bizarre.
Yes. All right. The stickers might be in tomorrow.
Wait, stickers?
I mean, bookmarks.
Bookmarks. Okay.
Bookmarks.
The magnets will be available, though. I'll make sure I get those to you.
Ruth, this is a good plan, but I need some people to come in person or else I am doing my own book club to myself. So please come in person. Enough people, please. Or else I will just be talking about my thoughts about the book to myself, and it will be weird.
You already do that plenty at Rewind.
Yeah. I can talk to myself all day, and I will if I have to, but I'd rather not. Okay.
This is fascinating, Travis.
Is it? I'm always curious if this is like watching paint dry.
Hell yeah, Molly.
Does she already have hers done?
Where in the world is fucking Bryan? Woo!
She's no slouch when it comes to the meme game, so I thought she might already have it done just to show me up. Game recognizes game.
Well, that depends on the bookmarks getting to me by Thursday, which is an open question still. So I will be making an announcement about those.
That doesn't look right. What are we going to fix?
It's incredible. We lost Bill.
We lost Bill. And he ran away.
Fucking IRS.
Magic to use the hat. I don't like using Magic Select. It usually leaves a lot of like strays. You get a cleaner line by going with a soft edged eraser, and it gives a more natural line. Something like with I don't know, I have 57% hardness right now. For those playing the game at home. And then what I will do is probably go down to 0. Just take off a little bit more. I could turn into the Bob Ross of Photoshop.
Yeah, I think that's your future.
Wait, no, we want to do that. We want to go pow, pow, pow. Get rid of this over here. Nope, too much.
Well, I just had to go check in on the cat.
You have a cat?
Oh, yeah. Gussie, baby. And I'm about to send you guys a modeling pic. True modeling pic of Gussie, baby.
Oh, hell yeah. Gussie baby can be an emote.
Oh.
Travis, in the comments, is this possible with GIMP?
What I'm doing?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yo, absolutely. This is just 2 photos on top of each other. This is super basic photoshopping. And I'm doing this kind of like meant to be a little slapdash and haggard.
That's how I like it, baby.
Yeah, same, truthfully.
Slapdash and haggard. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Well, I also recognize that I have a certain set of skills that make me dangerous. And I promised long ago that I would never use my photoshopping skills for nefarious reasons. Or if I did, had a real good reason to do it.
Yeah.
Fuck it. We're going to call that done. That's silly. Careful, they may swap the stream over to creative. If they did, they did. They don't normally mess with us like that.
Yeah, we fly way under the radar, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 23 of you guys here.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want. Start bringing our weapons on. Look at this. Ready? You guys ready? Gus update.
What?
Wow. What a long little minx. We love her.
Does everybody have that Afghan?
This one?
I feel like everybody has that Afghan.
Yeah. It's my least favorite kind of blanket, to be frank. I don't know who made the blanket. Katie's had that blanket for as long as I've known Katie, so I have no idea who made the blanket. But
I like
Gus was made in a boat in Worcester. That's where Gus was born. As a litter of stray kittens in a boat in Worcester, and then Katie took her in. I have no idea who made the blanket. Lake Chagagagog Manchagagog Chungamog.
Hi, Epic.
What's up,
If
Epic?
anybody has gotten the link through Instagram, all you got to do is use it on your computer and join, and we'll add you to the stream. You guys can talk to us.
Especially if you've already begin discussing your social anxiety. We can use this as a way to break things in.
Yeah.
You know what? Screw it. We can even... I'll put it in the general chat. Because why not?
I love you, Gussie. Look at her again. Oh, my God. She's so cute. She's so pushy and fussy, needs everything done her way.
So use that link. It acts like Zoom in your browser. We're not going to add everybody all together. We'll put people one at a time. If this goes horrendously wrong, we'll just end the stream. But for now, it'll be funny. Join us if you feel like it.
I plan on asking anybody who tries to enter into here extremely invasive personal questions.
I feel like that's the only way to do this. We're going to try to get them to show their tax documents on stream.
Yeah. Make sure you have your social in there too. I was legit worried about that for a second.
I would be too.
That could have been really bad.
Oh, we got somebody. Oh, here he is. All right. Great place to start.
Oh, I should probably.
What's up, brother?
There we go.
The infamous Epic Stratton. Welcome,
How's
welcome.
it going, guys?
What's up, Epic? What's your deepest, darkest fear?
I'm a human golden retriever. That whole social anxiety thing just doesn't work for me.
Epic, for the folks at home, you are involved in Worcester politics in a way. Why don't you explain that to
We lost him.
everybody else? Oh, Jesus. Right when I
Your
was
questions
asking
were too hard hitting, Bill.
right
you
when I
gotta
was
take it
asking a
easier.
real question. Oh my God. That stinks. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
All right. I think he's back.
I hit the wrong button.
The leave button? Yeah.
The done button.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows a little bit about you and what you do in and for Worcester. So just give us the short rundown.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not a Worcester native. I moved here in 2018. I'd lived in Boston and Brookline and like Northborough, and basically moved out here for my wife's work and my work. And when COVID hit, I sort of was looking for a way to kind of give back a little bit. I like living in Worcester. I wanted to keep getting better. And so I live over where they were taking a bunch of trees, and I looked at joining the Urban Tree Commission. And when I reached out to them, when I reached out to them about it, they're like, "Oh, we've got like 40 people who applied." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, then, they got plenty of people. What else do you need people on?" And they gave me the list, and I was like, I like parks. I got a kid, so I joined the Parks Commission. I've been doing that, which I like. It's a volunteer position, trying to make things better. And so I've been involved with parks for like, year and a half, I think, or so. And then now I'm the parks representative on the Community Preservation Commission, which is pretty cool because hopefully, we'll get that set up and be able to start, using those funds to help create more parks and more conservation and, preserve some of the, beautiful historic buildings in the city, as well as affordable housing, which we desperately need.
Yes, we do. Did you play any part in the Worcester? What's it? Worcester? Colin Novik's New Little Forest. Was that anything that you had played a part in?
No, not specifically. Not that I recall. That may have come up to parks for, hey, are we okay with this? For, like from the parks perspective. But honestly, I just don't recall off the top of my head. Post marathon Monday, I'm operating on like, only like 5 or 6 hours of sleep. So
yeah. Did you go to the marathon?
We had family in town who were running. And so, we were playing host and driving people in. And then my wife volunteers every year. She's been doing that for like the last 12 or 13 years, where she's on the medical team and volunteers. And so I was solo parenting both kiddos yesterday, which we'll take it out of you.
We're asking. Chat's asking for tiny human reveal.
Oh yeah, let me. I'll have to go see if I can find her. She's downstairs with my folks and my sister and my wife. But I'll grab her before I hop off the stream. But yeah, I can get the tiny human and have her say hi, or see if she'll say hi. She may not. It's close to bedtime, so it's anyone's guess.
Tell me about it, brother. What's being on the commission like? What is the time commitment like?
So generally, being on one of the commissions, it's really like you have to kind of to get it put onto a commission. They actually have a committee that reviews applicants before they go to the city manager, and they'll typically ask you about why do you want to do this, what's your interest in this. For me with parks, I like being outside, I like green space, I like biking, running, hiking. I really enjoy having that green space. It's part of why I liked Boston so much and Brookline. It's one of the things actually I really do like about Worcester. We've got a lot of green space still. Um, and so they'll interview you and kind of talk with you about it. And if they think you're a good fit, they'll move you forward to the city manager. Part of that is sometimes there are limitations based off of what the representation on that commission is supposed to look like, i.e., what district are you in? So for me, I'm District 1. When I applied, there was an open spot for District 1, and I think some at-large ones as well. So um, it's not terrible in terms of time commitment. If I remember for parks, I think I want to say a 4-year or 3-year appointment, something like that. Might be 5. I mean, I honestly, it's like, I'll do it for as long as they'll let me do it. And as long as, they need the help. It's the time commitment isn't too bad. Typically we have one meeting a month, sometimes two. The meetings themselves can range anywhere from like, you know, 45 minutes to 3 hours, depending on what it is and how much stuff people bring to the meeting. Lately, parks has been getting a lot more attention. Some of this was over questions regarding busking. Some of this was around the events and permitting and how this works also for vendors and people who want to sell concessions. And so the meetings have definitely been running longer. But generally speaking, I don't think it's too bad. When I think of like the stuff that I give my time to every week or every day that I wish I didn't have to, giving like an hour or couple hours a month to, back to the city as far as just for volunteer position, I think is pretty fair and pretty reasonable. I sit on 2 commissions, so I do have a second one that I sit in on. Our last meeting for community preservation was like 30 minutes and it was by Zoom, so it was easy. Normally for that, it's been an hour or two. Not too bad, but it's as long as you like what you're doing, I don't think it's so bad. I think that if it was something where you were just banging your head on the desk, that might be pretty rough, but I like it. So it's been pretty good.
Eric, how did that end up playing out with the permits for busking and whatnot? Did they just realign them with the city's permit system? Or okay.
Yeah, exactly. So basically the question came up of, one, is this even allowed? And also, why is it at parks and being charged? And, I'll say this, from parks perspective, the commission, we're all volunteers. We rely on the department to bring us information. We ask questions during the meetings. During when they bring us stuff like a design for a park, we'll be asking questions about like, hey, how is this for accessibility? Is there going to be a restroom? Are there concerns about parking? We ask all sorts of questions. The thing I will say for everyone else, public participation is encouraged. And I think it's really important if, when people love to show up and complain after something happens, but they didn't necessarily come out and voice their position or opinions or perspectives beforehand. I think the city does need to work on their publicizing meetings a bit better. City council even is a good example. The agenda gets posted, 48 hours in advance, but there's not a lot of publicity otherwise for it. I think it's great that, Bill and a lot of the other folks who are covering these meetings are really bringing attention to what's coming up at them so that people can come and voice their opinion. But yeah, for busking, they said, no, we're realigning this with the city. So it's just going to fall under the city's purview. And they handle it. So basically parks has nothing to do with the busking permits anymore. The only thing we do have some rules related to busking in the parks that are going to exist. And that has more to do with just making it feasible. You can't have 2 musicians playing music directly next to each other, not working together.
Sure.
That's not going to work well for anyone. A lot of these are things that are common sense in my opinion. And I think things people will generally agree upon, noise ordinance items, things like that. But I think they've realigned it. I think they did a good job realigning that and realizing, we want to encourage this. And I think there's been a lot of push to try and get that encouraged, which, credit to, Jeff Killebrew and to, I think, David Webb for kind of pushing that more of like, let's get more vendors, concessions, busking, things like that, which I certainly don't have an issue with. I think that you definitely have the aspect, though, of people who live next to the parks, I think should get a say too on what's happening next door to them. It's public space, but it's right next to their house too. So some of that's encouraging the public participation in the meetings. If someone doesn't want something, you got to come say something.
Yeah, I genuinely didn't know that the parks had even crafted their own busking regs separate from what the city had, and I only knew about the city ones from my time in the Worcester music scene. There was it was probably 20 years ago now. Actually, I just found the email now. It was literally 20 years ago. Was talking to the folks from the community arts advocates and whatnot, and they gave me the whole history of. It was back in the 90s. This guy Jim Barclays sued the city of Worcester with the ACLU to get busking legalized in Worcester, and but it just sat there for decades without anybody realizing that we even had an ordinance. I found the community arts advocates only because at the time the clerk's office told me there was no busking allowed in Worcester, but there was. I was able to find this old Telegram article from '95 covering the lawsuit, and it was really the ordinance was actually kind of cool. It cost like $1 on the city side. It was like $1 to basically lay ownership of a street corner for an entire season, and the bar for entry couldn't possibly be lower, and you could just be an itinerant musician anywhere. You bring out your fucking buckets and you own the street corner.
Yeah, I think that hopefully we'll see some more of it. I think that it's tricky in the city. There's going to be areas that are going to be more desirable than others. For sure, especially with where outdoor events taking place. I for one, I want to see more events. I want to see more stuff happening in the city. I think there's definitely push for more of that. I know Chris just got on, I think, the Arts Commission, if I remember right.
The Arts Council,
so hopefully, Arts Council. Thank you. And then Travis, I know, if I remember correctly, congratulations to you. You won a grant from them. Is that correct?
Thanks. Same with Bill. Bill got a project.
Oh,
grant.
nice. Yeah, Bill.
Fellowship grant.
That's awesome. I mean, it's nice to see that they're recognizing people who are doing stuff in the city and trying to support that. We need more of that. So hopefully that'll continue. At least that's what I'm counting on, anyways.
I'm trying to be as quiet as possible about it because I don't want the city council necessarily knowing that I got city money. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
I don't think that would be very good.
I mean,
very good for me.
I don't know. I mean, I fall in the camp of for the work that I do, the people who are my harshest critics at work, they're the ones I actually want to hear from the most usually, because they're the ones who are going to help me do my job better. If they're saying, hey, you're not doing X or this isn't working, great. Work with me. Tell me what I can do to improve it to make it better. And we'll see.
Right. But they wouldn't take your money away.
That's true. Yeah. They don't have the say to take my money, which is nice. So
right.
Their chance to take your money away has already passed, Bill.
But
approved by city manager.
Future money though,
Understood.
You see what I mean?
Oh yeah,
picking up what you're putting down. Back to the thing about the busking. So Jeff and I have talked about this at length, and I just sent him the link directly. So we'll see if he can jump on and talk about it. When I was in London, I saw a system that they use that I thought was super interesting, where they designate spots. And it creates kind of these centrally focused areas, and buskers can sign up for the spot and reserve it for a period of time. What that does is it allows turnover in the space. You're using high traffic areas, and in theory, you are literally creating a space that the expectation of public performance can happen. So if you are looking just for something to do, you can go wander down to the spot to see who's playing. And I really like that idea. It's a tough sell in some areas, and it's going to require, I don't know, where the most high traffic foot areas that aren't dependent on sports. But I love the concept of it. In London, it was in the Tube.
Yeah. I mean, I like that idea. Mind the gap. No, I like the idea of it. I think that's a great idea because it definitely makes it so you know where to go to find people. You're not looking for that. Hopefully we'll see the city kind of push more towards some of these tools that'll help connect people to it. Because I think that's the other aspect of just, you know, a lot of times it feels like there's stuff going on, but no one knows about it. And, you know, fortunately, I think there's a lot of advocates for what the libraries are doing or other, you know, community groups that are helping to help publicize that information and let us know, you know, here's what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not hard to find how to pull a permit for a roof in Worcester, but it is nearly impossible. Like there is nothing on the city's website that describes our busking process. It's just, again, it's just a weird set of ordinances that are buried somewhere in an addendum to the city's ordinance package overall.
Yeah, it sounds like they're working to revise some of that. You know,
Yep.
because that's back out of parks, that's out of our purview.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I'm sort of happy to have it out of there. You know, I think that we need to not have barriers to people doing some of that. I think it's reasonable to have certain limitations, you know, so that people can enjoy, you know, peace and quiet, you know, from time to time, or, you know, like you don't have someone out there at, you know, 10 o'clock at night, you know, drumming away outside your window. But, you know, during the day, you know, I want the parks to feel alive. You know, that's part of the fun. It's great when you can go out and do that and have something where it's, you know, free entertainment, so to speak. And ideally, you know, I'm one of those people, whenever I see people, I actually do see people playing instruments and busking, I'm one of those people who, like, I carry around a very small amount of cash and that's what it's for.
Yeah.
That's
To
one of the
Travis's
things
point too, that's they do the same thing that you mentioned in London, in Ireland, and they historically used it in Dublin as a way to connect areas that people would normally be walking to. So if you think of like Highland Street tends to have a lot of foot traffic. North Main Street has a fair amount of foot traffic depending on the time of day, but there's this chunk of like roadway in between the busier part of Highland Street and North Main Street where it's kind of a no man's land. So like you take an area like that and fill it with itinerant musicians or any sort of performer, and it's more likely to encourage people just to keep walking. Where
Sure.
and then development tends to follow because now there's people there. So you can make the argument that foot traffic has gone up. It becomes easier to rent out abandoned storefronts and whatnot. It's really a great way to just like well done above head signage and whatnot, just to make people feel somewhat safer, and especially out of towners, make them feel like there's a reason to keep moving, as opposed to like we're walking somewhere where there are no humans and it's like there be dragons sort of thing, which is historically the way huge swaths of Worcester. It's not that they're unwalkable or unnavigable. It's just you're alone out there and it feels weird after a while.
But that's how I treated the French Quarter, talking about New Orleans. Like when Nikki and I were down there, we got to an edge where we no longer heard music and it got dark and we're like, all right, we're probably going to turn around and go back to the people now. I don't know. It just makes sense.
Yeah. Worcester really desperately needs that area of nightlife. We just don't have that at all.
No, I mean, it's getting kind of weird too, where, I mean, it wasn't that long ago where we were talking. I mean, it was during Mike O'Brien's, the beginning of his tenure as manager. I mean, we talked nonstop about Worcester needing to become a 18-hour city. And now we're down to like an 8-hour city. It's like people, almost every business is wrapping up kitchens and whatnot, 4 hours earlier than they were pre-COVID. And it's just having a huge impact on both revenue streams for businesses, but also just like the desire to go anywhere.
Yeah, there's no point. There's no, like, you can't really go out on the town.
I'll be right back.
Not after 8 o'clock. Oh, you can go, Eric.
You don't have to
also,
stick around.
Yeah. If anybody else wants to join us, there's the link one last time. We can have people sign up. You know, we want to talk to lots of different people. Thanks for the warning. I do think that having those options would be better. I kind of lost the narrative.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's just one more thing to tie stuff together. It's when we had Wooberry going, I mean, Iris and I used to always like that. It was more of a reason for us to buy tickets for shows at the Palladium. And like, that was the thing, like being like lifers, it wasn't weird for us to be walking around, but like, it was hard not to see how a lot of people would be intimidated, even college students, right? Like you look at like the population of WPI, if you talk to enough of them, it's not hard to realize that most of them aren't leaving the campus that much, or the general vicinity of the campus. And it's totally understandable when it's just like there's no sign of life outside of cars. And once the sun goes down, even most of the cars are gone. It's weird, but it's.
Would you walk from Wooberry to the Palladium?
Yeah, it's a 10-minute walk.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a long walk, but for whatever reason in my head, it's like, that's a drive.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, I was doing the same thing a lot. I had buyers on a couple different properties down along like the William Street area and whatnot over the last couple of years, as a lot of the homes there were getting redeveloped. Very similar thing where like people felt like they must be kind of isolated and be like, no, let's go for a walk. And like you realize it's just one street and you're downtown. It's depending which street you want to take. It's either you're either at North Main Street or you're down by City Hall. And it's 10 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been trying to walk more around. It's you get to see more.
This is like this has to be the most. I mean, we are by far the most harmless city and like the most harmless period in this city's history. Like early mid 90s, like okay, like maybe I'm not going to go for weird walks in weird neighborhoods. You would have a hard time convincing me that there's any part of Worcester that is even remotely dangerous to walk in now. But it is weird because you're alone, and when you're alone, it seems like it takes forever. It's like when you're in Manhattan, you don't think about how many full actual city blocks you're walking just over and over and over. Like you're more likely just to have blistered feet by the time you're done walking because you're motivated by the flow of traffic and there's always something going on. We don't have any flow of pedestrian traffic and we have nothing going on.
Our best shot of that was totally killed by the ballpark too. Like
100%.
Like Canal District or Green Street from Dive Bar to Crompton Collective was probably our once in a generation chance at like having that sort of corridor where people go to an area, not any single establishment, right?
Did you ever do the Canal Art Walk?
No, I
never
never
thought of that. Oh, it was fucking fantastic. They shut down the street and just filled it with artists, and you could just mill about down. It was perfect. Pop in, grab a drink. Like, oh, it was absolutely perfect.
There was
See, that's the kind of stuff you need.
I've probably told this story before, but I mean, there was a time when I was slumming around the Lucky Dog. David Lee Roth came to Worcester, and like they didn't sell a single ticket to the Palladium. So like the promoters came around to all the bars and like just comped everybody. Like we need somebody to show up. This is the period of David Lee Roth's career where he was just going on stage with a bottle of Jack Daniels full of apple juice and like pounding it like the entire night. Like he was like sober, but like did not appear to be so. Yeah, like, but so we all got comp tickets and we just walked, like emptied out the Lucky Dog and walked to the Palladium. And it was really bizarre watching a lot of folks who were like, I mean, if you picture what the Lucky Dog was like in 2002, it was like a lot of really hard looking dudes who were like terrified walking down Major Taylor Boulevard because there was just like nothing. You're just in a wasteland. And that's where, again, it's psychological. If there were a million people around, like you wouldn't be fearful of that at all. It's just the idea of being alone.
Yeah. And like Main Street is like maybe has like 3 hours of active life every day.
Yeah.
You know, like lunchtime and then 6 p.m. and then at 7 p.m. nothing. You know,
there's like 6 places to get a bite to eat after 8, and like 2 places where you can actually go and sit down.
Right. Yeah, it's like you're either
Boynton. That's where I end up is more times than not.
Yeah, it's true. The Boynton is really like one of the only restaurants that's open like past like 9 or whatever.
Where you can get a decent bite and sit down and be among other people.
Yeah.
Me and Katie went to see Jagged Little Pill at the Hanover last week or the week before. And we went to Dead Horse Hill first. And we walked from Dead Horse Hill to the Hanover Theater, and there was absolutely nobody out. It was crazy.
Insane.
Yeah. It was like walking through a ghost town until we got to the Hanover, and then it was just people coming out of their cars to get into the theater. But until we hit that, we saw like maybe 3 people. Crazy.
The only time Iris and I do that walk alone, like from
here we go.
Dead Horse to nice.
Oh.
There we go. Tiny human reveal.
Tiny human reveal.
It's bedtime. She's tired. Can you wave hi? No, you're doing no tricks. 0 tricks.
Yeah. I'm not talking
about
the
your father?
In the box, father.
You think about it. No? No, she's tired. But wanted to just tiny human reveal.
Thank you for revealing your tiny human.
She's big now. She's 20 months. So, you see Travis? Yeah. Oh wait, Travis, where'd your dog go?
He wants
You like
food,
dogs?
but he's here.
What's that? It's a doggy? Doggy. The dog. She loves dogs. She's like crazy about them. All right. I'll let you guys run. Thanks.
Sign of a
Thanks,
good
thanks
human.
for hanging, Epic.
Bye. Oh, bye, dog. Bye, dog.
Awesome.
That's lovely.
Irish and I do that walk a lot from the Dead Horse down to the Hanover and whatnot. And the only time I've ever seen it anything like you just described as a ghost town is the night that there was a weekend that Dave Chappelle came to Worcester, like kind of unexpectedly when he was making his return to stand up. He did the Hanover as one of his warm up shows, but it was like a last minute announcement. The place sold out immediately. But it was, you had actual city people flooding into Worcester from actual cities because it was the only nearby show.
Yes.
And like those people were just out, the entirety of Main Street was just alive all night long. It was wild. But all it took was whatever, one theater's worth of Boston and New York folks to come to us. And suddenly Main Street was just a mob scene.
Right. Yes. Absent that, there's just like there's no reason to be kicking around down there.
No.
I mean, there's not any, there's like whiskey on Main there's like a club over there.
Whiskey on Water. Yeah.
Yeah. Whiskey on Water, but it's on Main Street.
Yeah, there's one on Main Street too.
Yeah.
Oh. Is that place actually open?
I don't know.
Yeah. I've seen it open. I walked by and there was like a bunch of beer cans on the other side of the road and some poop. So, I don't know.
I feel like somebody needs to shake down the owners of Irish Times and get them to release that.
Yeah.
That's the
Irish
Times.
Times.
Yeah, I know exactly who owned it.
Yeah.
It's such a prominent fucking, like, we wanted it for the mural festival because it's such a huge wall, but no, he needs people to know that they can park in his lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So he's gonna pay to get that and 2 fucking box trucks in the back with banners.
Reliably, the most foot traffic generated by any business downtown is the courthouse. It's like
It's just shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the courthouse is in an objective sense the most vibrancy added to downtown on any given day. It's just people that have to go to the courthouse and they have to park a little bit far away from the courthouse, so that makes it look like there's people walking around, but it's just people going to court.
I have definitely set up near that courthouse just to watch the various people, because you get everybody from the suits to the guys walking in tank tops, and you're like, buddy, I hope you do well with whatever you're dealing with.
The part that sucks about Irish Times and those surface lots too by the courthouse is the only time that you ever take them off the market as surface lots is on the very front end of a development boom. And like if you think of the Seaport in Boston, way before we were talking about housing costs, like all the surface lots just disappeared and they became high rises. And it's the rare intersection of relatively low interest rates and relatively low construction costs. Like that is, you can put another generation to bed with the idea of those surface lots being developed and anything useful coming about.
I know. And the land value breakdown on those, no, not land value, like the percentage of downtown land that is surface parking lots is absolutely absurd.
Wild.
I think it's like 35-40%. I mean, there was a map floating around. I think it might have been the Worcester Business Journal that made it, where it just like had all the surface parking lots in red. Let me try to find that because it's like stunning to look at.
Yeah, because everyone knows the Main Street ones, but you go up towards like the top of Walnut Street, there's even bigger surface lots peppering the entire area up there that are just massive,
Right.
completely unused, and just hanging around.
And it's like that is like complete. Oh yeah, here we go. It was a Neil article. There's no graphic here, but 35% of land in Worcester Central Business District is devoted to parking. It's like, how can you expect Main Street to be real? Like 35% of the land is completely blocked off to any sort of residential density.
Right.
And then like say what you will about like the hotels and the DCU center and all that, but that's a lot of blocks that could be housing. And same thing with the hospital. And it's like people, you have no choice but to like drive to downtown because there's only like a couple apartment buildings down there.
Yeah.
And you need that built-in density for there to be any sort of real city feel.
Right.
So, yeah, right. Imagine George Russell being like, there's only 35% of the land downtown is dedicated to parking. We need more parking down there.
But the sad thing too is you go back, if you look at the last census and look at the population for 0608, it's basically non-existent. Like there are some people living down there. The Front Street apartments had an impact on that, but it's mostly been Class C and B office space for decades now. And again, we kind of missed the boat on the potential to start renovating because of costs those unused offices into residential spaces.
I found the map. Look at that. So this is the downtown.
We have no parking, guys. There's
wait, hold on, wait. This isn't Worcester.
So it looks like it's Atlanta, Georgia.
What the hell?
Where are we?
Okay, hold on.
Atlanta.
What? This is linked out from the Patch article. Let me see if the Worcester's on here. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's even worse.
There's
Look at
nowhere
this.
to park down here. What are we going to do?
Yeah. Like,
there's nowhere to park.
There's nowhere to park. So, and then I wish that there was like a way to score this against like where there's actual residences, because like, okay, this is a residence right here, the courthouse lofts now. But this isn't. Over here, there's apartments here, but all of this is not residential at all. It's all fucking parking.
Yeah.
Like the hill to the west of Main Street is literally just it's just a parking lot. Like,
yeah, where your cursor is up on Walnut Street. That's what I was talking about. Like you get up there. I mean, there are parking lots that you can't even see because they're so overgrown on the outskirts that it just looks like shrubbery. But there's parking lots that you could fit easily 100 cars in, just kind of rotting.
Right. And then like think about the disconnecting effect that has between like over here, that's a legit dense urban neighborhood. But like it's not on Main Street. You have to go through like a half mile in any direction to like actually connect yourself down to any business on Main Street. That's just parking.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
To Eric's point as well, too, about the conversion to housing. The thing that really sucks is the only voice that's out there now pushing for like a return to office work are property owners, like office managers, like building managers, right? Like the data is wicked clear. Like productivity is higher when people work from home. Job satisfaction is higher. The only like negative that's been found is like younger folks, like first job types, seem to have a harder time figuring out like the socializing rules because they've never been in an office environment before. But like aside from folks in their like early to mid 20s, everything is a net positive. But we still have property managers pushing hard, making the claim that everyone needs to get back into an office. And people like in Worcester will buy that shit because we know 6 of them will show up to the council meeting. And we'll probably have a local ordinance by the end of the year mandating a return to the office.
Yeah. What are we going to do with Unum if no one gets to work? We wasted our TIF.
We can't let all these parking lots lay foul.
We were talking about busking, so I reached out to the guy leading the charge. I'd like to welcome Mr. Jeffrey Killebrew to the show.
Hey,
Jeffrey, what's up, man?
Yo, what's going on, fellas?
What's happening?
Hey, how are you?
Thanks for joining
man, by
us.
the grace of God, I'm all right, man. I don't know how other people would do it, but I do it by the grace of God, man.
Yeah.
How did you feel that whole process went with changing the busking ordinances?
I'm trying to change the spotlight as we talk about change. So this is an endeavor
How do you feel it went? Yeah.
I think it. Well, the short answer is shout out to David Webb. Short answer is I think it went great. Like I said, this is something I've been working on for like at least the last 3 years when it comes to street performing and vending. I've been a street vendor at Elm Park since 2018, off and on. And I've been, I've also done as a musician, been at Elm Park performing, but other places like the ballpark, a couple of spots off of Shrewsbury Street. And it was interesting to see that what I felt like was the city manager's office was trying to get ahead of the curve, because I've been promoting or requesting a contract with the city that would promote busking and vending in high foot traffic areas of the city, which was in alignment with the cultural development plan, which was written in 2018, published in 2019. On page 20 of the 2.4 point G of the strategic activities, there are 5 points. 2 of them said that they want to simplify the application process to become a street vendor, and the other one was that they want to encourage busking in high pedestrian areas. Now, the fact that they would put out a process where you'd have to get a permit and pay $50 every 2 weeks for this for the opportunity to be a busker is in stark contrast and contradiction of the cultural development plan. Whereas we already don't have a lot of buskers or street performers as it is. The fact that they would even think that somehow this would be an invitation is confusing. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, except for the fact that they might have seen some benefit or the value in what I'm proposing through the Worcester project. So what happened was I posted up of the fact that they were getting ready to do that on Facebook. Another gentleman named Matt Carency, thankfully, he caught wind of it and wrote a petition, got something like 500 signatures. I wrote the TNG in the Worcester magazine, and then we got a message, a quote or response publicly from the city manager that said, there must have been a misunderstanding, and due to the backlash, they reconsidered it and eventually rescinded that process. So I'm thankful, not just for the purpose of this project, but for musicians and performers potentially in the city that's no longer on the table. I'll stop there because there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot more. A whole lot more. But I'll stop there for a second to get your feedback. And unfortunately, I just caught onto your live, so I didn't prior.
No, you're cool. This has been a different one tonight. So
no, that's fine. I mean, it's what you just said is in line with what Eric described from the other side of the commission, and it's the thing that's wild to me is that I was saying, Eric, that like the city has had a busking ordinance since 1995. Like the city was sued back in 1995 by the ACLU for not allowing street musicians, in particular, not vendors, but street musicians. And it was back in the mid 90s. They created this permit system, not specifically laying out the parks, but on any street, you could basically, as a musician, buy a street corner for $1, and you had it for a year. And that's been on the books forever. But it's like the city never advertised it. If you called into the clerk's office, they'd tell you they never heard of that ordinance. But it was It was on the books, and there was a court case, and there's one small article in the Telegram from the mid 90s describing how the whole thing went down. It was just a shame that it had to actually come to the point where you had the Parks Department come up with the nonsense idea of charging people $50 every 2 weeks for something that in theory already existed and cost $1. And they still didn't have enough people using.
Well, the interesting thing is now you're bringing up some documents that I haven't seen yet. The fact, the question is, some of the questions around this, how enforceable is it? First of all, what does that look like? If somebody's standing and playing a guitar, what are they going to be arrested? Are they going to get a fine? It goes potentially against one of the amendments of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Because then you start to get into preachers, like street preachers, because that's
Right.
a form of freedom of speech and a performance. So there was a lot of questions, but to go back to which was getting ready to be implemented, but to go back to your point, there's a lot of unclarity around it, because if it's $1, what's the point? Otherwise,
just to cover the bases that you described, because it was like the city knew that the court case was a freedom of speech case when the ACLU sued the city. And the settlement that they agreed to was that, like telling a musician they can't be on a street corner is a violation of the First Amendment. So they came up with this process of like a minimal fine or minimal fee. And then that way they could keep track of like who was where and who was supposed to be there. And they would also have the ability, like if you came in with like a 15-piece Oompa band, like maybe it'd be blocking the sidewalk. So like that wouldn't fit, but like it was going to be clear that the kid with buckets or the person with the guitar, like they would be just fine in any sidewalk that met, contemporary ADA requirements and what have you.
But even with that, right, it begs the question, if it is a band or a group of, what is it, a 2-person minimum, does each individual of the group have to get that permit, or could they get it in the name of the group? It would raise too many questions. I mean, it just didn't. I don't understand how that would have made sense on any level. Who was part of that conversation to even come up with it and present it? To go back, I've known people who have been vendors and have reached out to, who have been buskers, who reached out to the city and was not able to get any clarity on it. So it's like, so what are we doing here? It's not consistent. It just doesn't make sense at all. And so I'm glad to see that part has, been done away with as it is in 2024, which then leads to my suggestion of this Worcester Renaissance project, which would encourage street performers and almost and reimagine what it means to be a busker, because the culture of busking starts with a person who would want to share their creativity with the community. After that, they might put it down a hat to collect donations, and they have the option of collecting donations with a sign. And typically you see a musician. But what I'm trying to do with this project is reimagine the entire concept of being a busker to street performer, to include street performers, so that where you see in major cities like Boston, Faneuil Hall, or like a Times Square in New York, Vegas, these other places where you see or Europe, even, where you see mimes, you see the magicians, you see the living statues, people doing acro. And how that could in itself be a form of an attraction for tourists. So where they may come for the bigger attractions like DCU, the ballpark, the Hanover Theater, the museums, the parks, or the colleges. When they come for those major draws, typically tourists like to see what else does the city have to offer.
Right.
And at the moment, we have bars. We don't have a lot of clubs. And even with the bars, it's bars with a dance floor. And an ordinance that came out last year was that if an outside promoter wanted to promote something as small as a trivia night or karaoke, they have to get a permit from the city and have to do it, I think, something like at least 2 weeks in advance. Yep. You know what I mean? So there, and maybe that's due to the fire down in at the club in Providence, but it's the way that they're trying to cash out on these small entertainment opportunities, I think is I think it's kind of crazy. You know what I mean?
No, totally. Because even if they were charging $50 every 2 weeks, like you're not going to make any money off of the $50 unless you have like hordes of musicians and entertainers looking to come and get those permits. We currently have you, right? Like there isn't enough density on that side. Like we've always been a city that as soon as somebody proposes something, like the council is going to come up with nightmare scenarios about what's going to go wrong. remember when we started having bike lanes first pop up in the city. I remember having a conversation with Kate Toomey where her initial knee-jerk reaction was, well, yeah, we got to start licensing bikes. It's like, dude, there's 3 people commuting by bicycle. It's like, why don't you wait till there's more bicycles than there are cars before you even start entertaining the idea that they need any sort of like fee attached to them? That's insanity.
A critical mass type of situation.
Yeah.
Now check this out. For one, thankfully, by the grace of God, I presented how did I do it? I petitioned to present my proposal at City Council. And just a quick backstory, I've given the city manager's office this proposal 3 years ago. Twice last year, the chief of staff requested the outline of my project. But because, a long story short, ran into some non-transparency, no communication. It took her 4 months from November to try to give me a response. I'll go into more details about that response later. But the fact is that when I pitched it to City Council, got unanimous support, 10 yeas, 0 nays. And I'm sure you're aware of sometimes it's hard to get them to agree on certain things. But then from there, I was sent to the Veterans Parks Memorials Subcommittee that oversees the Parks Department. And again, got unanimous support. And from there, the process is that they requested on my behalf, they petitioned that the city manager have a conversation with me about this project. Now, that's been 4 weeks ago, and I haven't heard anything from the city manager. So my concern is, I'm going to try to be tactful about this. Is so I was someone gave me the feedback that what I'm asking for is much bigger than what I initially intended. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, I wrote it down on paper. It's a 20-page outline with a 6 pages executive summary. I know exactly what I'm talking about. They said, no, what you're asking for is for even though you're asking for these 3 departments to communicate, what you're suggesting is, and people know that the entire system needs to be changed because there's not enough communication amongst the departments. So if that requires communication amongst those 3, it really needs communication amongst them all. So if you're gonna do it, you gotta do the whole thing. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what I'm going for. Like you guys could do the rest, do the whole thing. I'm just looking for at least. But they said, the pushback is no, you can't just do it for you and for this purpose and for this project. It needs to be done across the board, across all the departments. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out over the next, I don't know, however long it takes before I get this invite from the city manager, the departments that would be involved in vending and busking in the city, and this agreement. Hopefully, we can come to for a contract and for funding that would create, as far as what I'm looking for, is the permission to place markers in high foot traffic areas of the city that would have a QR code. The QR code would lead to a website that would have a map of the other locations and the schedule of these vendors and performers, so that we change this stigma of panhandlers or buskers to professionals,
right?
By, to your point earlier, marketing their appearance, letting people know that they're going to be there, to now create an audience for these street performers and for these vendors.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Thank you, my man. Hey, feel free to spread that.
But I mean, it makes perfect sense. It'll probably take another 20 years for anyone to move on it.
Hopefully, yeah. We've been getting a lot. Like I said, is unanimous support from the lower cabinet of the city councilors, the subcommittee. I've gotten one of the parks commissioners who she actually is willing to be on my board and submitted a document to so that there's no a conflict of interest. And now where I'm headed is with this school committee, because when I compared our application process to Boston, youth as young as 14 can get their hawkers and peddlers license if they get a worker's permit from the superintendent's office.
Right.
So when I asked the superintendent's office to support me with this, I was told by one of my contacts there that they didn't feel comfortable speaking in support until the school committee until the district takes a position on it. I'm like, okay, well, why? Okay, all right. So then what is the process to have the school district take a position? So now I have to petition before the school committee to now include youth on the hawkers and peddlers license, which would then give them the opportunity to not just have a summer job, but start a summer business where the community can support their creativity, whether it be through being a street performer or a street vendor. I'll stop it there again because there's still tons more.
Well, I mean, you and I have talked about the stuff you had to deal with Elm Park and all that jazz too.
I hold it.
No, I mean, the other thing that I can't help but think about while listening to you talk too is, to your earlier point, that like no matter how you approach the permitting process, at the end of the day, all anyone, at least on the musician side, is asking for is something that would clearly be covered under First Amendment privileges, right? But we live in the kind of city where if something is abnormal, the approach from the city government is always, well, is this even legal? Like we have to come up with a process to allow people to do this, right? Like when the inverse should be true. Like we don't have laws to allow things; we create laws to ban things. And like this is something that's already expressly allowed. Like a permitting process is really just to work in concert with the city, so hopefully it works better for everybody, right? Like, and that could be also helpful for, like in this case, just musicians, right? You might have somebody from out of town who doesn't know the city really well, and like. So having a permit process that has locations designated and whatnot could be helpful for an outsider. But realistically, like the city doesn't even need to be involved. Like somebody with a guitar should, as long as they're not violating, I think we do have some noise ordinances for decibels, right? Like if somebody's not violating that, like you're already just doing something the First Amendment says you're totally entitled to do. But we approach it in the inverse direction in Worcester, which is like, oh, this is unusual. We have to figure out a way to make it illegal immediately. Or make it so somebody has to ask permission to do something that they're already completely entitled to do.
Well, shout out to Travis because he actually gave me a piece of very valuable information that inspired part of this project. When I look, he sent me some information about the Buskers project in London. Okay.
Oh, we were just talking about that on here.
And yeah, it was cool incredible to read about it. And one of the major things to your point that made it so simple because the mayor not only did he celebrate the concept, but they went to if you go to the site, there's a picture of 3 performers standing with the mayor in front of city buses. The mayor of London. In front of city buses, and on the buses they were wrapped with the faces of those individuals. Each one of the buses had one of the buskers on the side of the bus. Okay, another thing to the implications here is that a friend of mine, she basically expounded for me that what we have the capacity to do at this point. What we're talking about is potentially creating an industry that doesn't exist.
Sure.
And so whereas like the way she described it is like when you look at the hair and beauty industry, when there was became deregulated, people were doing hair and stuff like that at home, which could cause issues. But when it became more regulated, it increased the professionalism of it and boosted that industry. So whereas in Worcester, where it's not necessarily regulated, and we're not looking for it to be regulated as such as like what I'm trying to say, like not
permitted
or discouraged. That's what I'm trying to say. Not discouraged, but creating a framework where they can be successful. Meaning whether we start a union, which could potentially have insurance benefits for this industry. Like when the closest thing, or somebody else mentioned that, okay, if you're requesting a bid for the city, if they want to enter an agreement, potentially agreement, I don't know this to be the case. I don't know who from City Hall may be watching can clarify this for me. maybe this can be a smooth transition. I don't know. But if you put out if you want an RFP or you want to put out a bid, you have to make it so that other people can be involved, I guess, to see who is going to be the lowest bidder, right?
Mhm.
So in this area, like I tried to Google anything that has closely remotely to what I'm suggesting. And the closest thing that I could find was in New York, where there's an organization that helps to support vendors, specifically just vendors. And for the most part, their advocacy is around the street vendors who may get tickets for being in the wrong place, wrong time, too long, or whatever. And they help them out with court cases, that sort of thing, to help dismiss tickets. But what I'm suggesting is a lot more robust than that, because they don't offer any business development around that. So what I'm suggesting is creating the infrastructure where we train people of how to, develop a business idea around street vending and performing.
Right.
Okay. And then help them to be successful by creating these markers in high foot traffic areas, and not only to benefit from the gentrification and the tourism that exists, but once people start coming off the highway, they're going to be like, man, I saw this in Worcester the last time I was there. Right. They're going to bring a friend. And, so after the baseball game, they're going to venture out into the city and find out, well, where's that performer that we're talking about? Where's that small vendor that had the ices, that had the limbes, that had the sausage cart, the hot dog carts, that were selling balloons, or like what I was doing, back to your point, Travis, down at Elm Park as a vendor. According to the records, I'm the first Black vendor in the history of the park. Okay, the only other guy who had been there as a vendor before me was the Elm Park food truck, who had been there for 20 or 30 years, but they haven't been able to give me that documentation by record. Okay, but what I was doing there started off with making slime as a business with my daughter, who was 5 or 6 at the time. We call it a slime sundae because we put all the ingredients in the sundae cup, and kids could come over and make their slime and put toppings like foam beads and glitter and paint and stuff like that. I wanted her to have a play on the idea of an ice cream truck, so I bought her a Barbie Power Wheels Escalade. It was a pink little car. I customized it. I gave it a paint job, stereo system, made it go twice as fast, deep dish chrome wheels, underglow lights, LED headlights. So now she's booming her system driving around the park, and I realized that parents would be willing to pay for rides in the car. So over time, I was eventually able to sell not just the slime, but rent out the cars, sell ice cream, snacks, drinks, toys. So I'm doing something that no one had ever seen here in Worcester. And when people are coming from different parts of the country, they're saying the same thing, that maybe they've only ever seen something like this in Europe. Mm-hmm. Now, I can't be the only genius in the city. You know what I mean? But because of all the red tape, people are like, you know what? I'm not even going to try. I'm not even. It's like, no, I'd like to, but so that when I saw a path that's just waiting to be blazed, long story short, I came up with this project, and based on my research of the Harlem Renaissance, mm-hmm. the Italian Renaissance, my knowledge of what it means to be a Black man in America, and all that my ancestors have done to fight for the civil liberties that we have here. And looked at the lowest common denominators between those times, what happened in Italy, and Florence, Italy, Harlem, and what's happening now, and reverse engineered what I call the Worcester Renaissance Project, and trying to get this contract with the city so we can be a catalyst for the next movement for BIPOC artists, entrepreneurs, to start at what I see as one of the lowest levels of starting a business as a street vendor or street performer, because it gets rid of one of the biggest expenses that you have, which is the brick and mortar.
Yep.
Right.
And that's where, you see that the walls for getting anything done in the city are built into the system. Again, I remember back when we first started having conversations about food vendors in the city, like food trucks and whatnot. Phil Palmieri, who was city councilor at the time, actually said out loud that if we allowed food trucks in the city, that people wouldn't go to the chop house anymore. And it's like, motherfucker, are you saying that somebody who's out buying a fucking hot dog or some tacos, but originally had plans to go and spend $500 on a steak, Like they're going
Right.
to change their plans and they're going to settle for street food now. Like maybe, but that food's going to be awesome, and Worcester ain't there yet. And the only thing that we ended up doing was allowing that dude who hangs out down at Elm Park. We allowed him to keep his truck there specifically because his brother was a firefighter.
So you know some of the background.
No, I know all the. Yeah, no, I mean, I've been here.
Oh,
been here for a while.
Brendan knows lots.
Listen,
It's
I'm trying
wild,
to be
though. And I mean-
tactful. I'm trying to be tactful. I know a lot of the I don't want to say dirt, but I know a lot of the background of this stuff. So I'm trying to be diplomatic about this. But I've had personal experiences that I feel like at this point, because of what I know, I might be knocking on some doors that would expose some things that have been happening in the city, which is probably why they've been reluctant to move forward with what I'm suggesting. Although it makes so much sense, it checks off so many boxes. I mean, what is the pro? What are the cons to this?
Right.
You know, when it comes to street vending, we used to have sausage carts, you know, that sort of thing. But one of the ordinances is that you have to have permission from the first floor tenants on the block or whatever, and you have to keep moving every 5 minutes, and it has to be within 250 feet from a door or whatever. So it's easy to be blackballed from an area, which is
Right.
why we don't see those hot dog carts or sausage carts on Green Street anymore like they
Right.
used to be. You know,
Interesting. Okay.
That just did. I mean, and the other part that came up too, which actually did work for some of the vendors, the food trucks, even ones that have a higher end product, was what the compromise the city came to was we would treat it like things that happen at festivals. So like we have organized events for for food trucks. Like if there's something on the common, we'll put out like an RFP for people to come down and participate with their food trucks and whatnot. But you can't just like have a Twitter account like you can in most cities and tell your customers like, hey, this is the corner we're going to be at tonight. And 2 hours later, we're going to move over here.
Right.
You need to kind of treat it as a semi-permanent business that's authorized by the city. And again, it's just to protect the brick and mortars, which, I mean, if I just can't wrap my head around the idea how somebody who sees like a comparison between a brick and mortar sit down restaurant and going, and I love food. Like I don't pass a food truck without trying their food, but like that isn't going to change my plans if I had plans to go sit down at a restaurant. They're
And it's
two
so
completely
fucking-
different environments.
It's so self-defeating too, because when you have a density of available food choices, the place becomes a bigger destination
Right.
for people to go and get food. The more restaurants you have around you, the better it is for your restaurant. It's such a regressive way to think about it, to think otherwise, you know? A block with 4 coffee shops on it is suddenly the block where you go to get coffee. It helps everybody.
Exactly.
Here's the thing, man. Look, if you look at just any other industry, when it comes to a competition, let's go there for a second. You know, it's healthy. You see Burger King, McDonald's. You see the dollar store, Dollar General, a Family Dollar, all within the same plaza. You know what I mean? So for example, over here in the parks, they only allow one vendor at a time.
Yep.
And it seems like the fear or the reason is so that the one person can be successful. Now, when you go to like I went down to Harlem, you know, to check it out. So I'm like, you know what, you keep talking about Harlem and the Renaissance. Let's see what that looks like. And you'll see 4 people selling purses all next to each other. You see 4 or 5 hot dog carts all on the same strip. So it's not a matter of competition. At the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, you got to sell better. You have a better product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just down in DC and they had a strip right by the Smithsonian's where there are no restaurants, and there was easily 30 food trucks. And it was obvious that like some company figured this out and put 10 out in a fleet because they offered every different variation of food, but they were all licensed under the same name.
Mm-hmm.
And as
So-
Bill already showed us tonight, if 35% of Worcester, downtown Worcester, is surface parking lots, we have the space to be putting people who are trying to.
Are they
get
still
their legs
putting
under
people up on Highland Street? Like there were food trucks that were up there at one point.
Yeah. But
We're on highway.
going back to the Elm
Oh,
Park thing, I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth. This is only me saying this. Are we looking at a situation where we're preserving a monopoly for a hot dog vendor who happens to be a department workers.
Oh,
So
man,
it-
he had to go back
it
there.
was,
He gotta go back there.
Joffrey,
He
you
gotta-
would know better than I would, but there was a time I know he was trying to sell that truck for a couple of years. Like the guy lived right across the street. He lived on whatever the side street is there that runs
Russell.
to Elm from Highland.
Russell.
Yeah, that's right, Russell Street. But yeah, I mean,
Yes.
he was the guy for decades, and I know he was trying to sell the business, and the business.
And
pitch
the
for
city's
business-
rules make it so that only one person can be doing that in the park,
Yes,
And
Right,
Jeff
and
beat him to the
that's-
punch.
and that's him.
yes.
So what
was.
happened was in 2018 was the first time that they had more than one. I was a new guy, and I felt like maybe they thought I was going to be a flash in the pan because I was just selling slime with my little girl. But but what happened, I'm trying to be tactful with this too, is I stood my ground. Basically, I was kind of intimidated for he tried to intimidate me off of the property, and they, because I stood my ground, then it became like a thing, you know what I mean, for a couple of years until evidently he retired from that spot. That's now this is where I say, you know what, if he was able to have that for 20 or 30 years, then why can't I have it for the next 20 or 30?
Yeah.
That's when he started to change up the rules, because I made the city manager aware that the parks commissioner was making up prices as he went because there was no rate schedule.
Right.
So last year was the first year that they went to a bid process. Now, in order for me to bid, in order for me to be there, I have to outbid everybody, which I don't think is fair, because the guy before me had the confidence, so much confidence that he was going to be there, that he named his truck after the park.
right.
It's
know what I mean?
it's now a memorial. He can't get rid of it now.
Whereas I should be able to budget and market my return. I can't do that. Now check this out. Last year, it was the first year that they made the season start April 1st, and they actually ended it early too, and it ends now October 31st. My permits in the past from 2018 would go to December 31st at various times. So the season started April 1st, but the bid didn't go live until April 4th. And I didn't think it was fair for people who were not familiar with the process to not be able to participate. And at the risk of shooting myself in the foot, I petitioned that the bid date be extended so that more people can participate. Thank God I won. But guess what? 2024, the season started April 1st, and to my knowledge, the bid still has not gone live. So 2 years in a row, we're dealing with this.
That's unbelievable, man. I'm gonna have to have a longer, maybe off the record conversation with you about some of that stuff. Because
I was supposed to connect you too, so this is a great way of doing that.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want you saying anything on the proverbial air that might get you in trouble or whatever, but this seems like something that needs to be fixed sooner rather than later. This is kind of crazy.
Yeah, let's assume the wrong people watch this.
More. There's a lot more. I got emails, I got videos, and so I'm trying to turn a negative into a positive by creating this project that could benefit so many people, especially the BIPOC community who has all sorts of business ideas, creatives, entrepreneurs that want to get out there. But we got to get rid of this red tape so that we could benefit from the gentrification that's happening. Renaissance doesn't start top down. And as they said that Worcester's going through Renaissance, we see that it's starting from where the developers are coming here, throwing on checks, cashing out, and then leaving. As we've seen the ballpark and a couple other places, and meanwhile, we have now an expedited a homelessness crisis, a housing crisis. So the implications of gentrification run deep. Look at our schools that are underfunded. Look at the redline communities, historically redline communities. I mean, there's so much more, which is why I know that my plan is robust. I know that's not based on a fad. I know that it's been historically proven and how it can benefit the city of Worcester, and not just the city of Worcester, but communities across the country who have been impacted by the historic practice of redlining.
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that's crazy too, is just the giant holes that I know we started talking about busking, but as we moved on a bit to vendors and whatnot in general,
Yeah.
like the giant holes that are out there from a culinary perspective is wild. And again, you can't make the argument that you're stepping on anyone's toes. Like if you want like decent falafel, you can get that downtown, but that's all you can get downtown, right? Like there are no
Yeah.
there's a guy who has a truck that he brings down to Brussels Street, where the gym I go to is, over by Acoustic Java. It does Caribbean food, incredible food, and he's actually good. It's a decent spot for him because he's mainly servicing the two Department of Youth Services, or I think it's DYS that's over there. They're two large office facilities, so he gets a fair amount of business. But there's almost no corner of Worcester where that guy couldn't set up shop and not be stepping on anyone's toes, because he's making like super spicy jerk chicken and pork, and it's like 90% of Worcester their stomachs aren't going to be able to tolerate that. Right? It's delicious, but 90% of the city is cut out on. He should be on the Common every day. I mean, he should be downtown instead of making office workers wait an hour for a falafel because it's the only place to get lunch that's like to go. Like and the other part of it that sucks too is we still treat those businesses like they're less than. Where anyone that's looked at mobile knows that like a modern mobile food service business is an easy 6-figure investment. Like you could end up spending more money for a food truck than you would to move into like a pre-existing pizza place or whatnot.
Right.
If you're buying a business, it's a wild expenditure to get involved.
Now check this out. One of the rules of the Parks Department is that for someone who hosts a special event, they get run of the park for the day, and they can tell the vendor who's paid the city for the season to be there that they cannot be there for that special event. So where vendors and performers will include them, we already have to compete with the rain, but then you have to inclement weather, but then you have to compete with special events too. Mm-hmm. Whereas if a special event is held on the Common, if they were to ask CVS or any one of those other businesses to close down for the day, they'd have to pay them for lost earnings.
Right.
But when it comes to the vendors, or we'll include buskers again, they don't treat it the same way as a respectable business where somebody's trying to make a livelihood to feed their family. Right. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Back to the thing about the food. I mean, you look at like what the Worcester Food Hub is doing. They had the building, that glass building, and they were putting in local vendors there. They literally just broke ground on their facility that they're looking to build at Union Station. And I think that is going to be the type of energy that's going to help bring in and foster new food areas, as well as some new food designations in the city. To what Jeff was talking about way earlier about having an organization stand these people up, as much as we want it to be, I just don't see as a function of the city. I think this is an independent organization or not-for-profit that's set up, because for one, you almost want it to be independent so you can't be manipulated. So it could be a little bit more broad facing. The only organization that I could think that even remotely would be interested in something like this is probably the Chamber of Commerce. And as an independent, you really don't want assistance from them. No. So I'm curious if like there's a conversation to be had with Shaun over at the Food Hub, because there's alignment there, and they have this equity in food program that they've been running for years, that in a way feels similar. And there's some like parallels that can be drawn to buskers and performers and street vendors. So I don't know, that could be an interesting conversation y'all can have at some point.
Well, not only with the Food Hub, but also with E4All. Okay. Because what we're talking about is entrepreneurship in general, and so my series of events, the Worcester Renaissance Fairs, are part of the Worcester Renaissance Project. The Worcester Renaissance Fairs serve as an incubator for someone or people who would want to become a street vendor or street performer. The next event, our first event this year, is April 27th, and it's an opportunity for people who have business ideas to see if they can get support from the community. A friend of mine she connected me now to Fitchburg. So over the weekend, I was at the mayor's gala, and I met the mayor. One thing that's notable about that Fitchburg is that they have a strong mayor setup versus having a city manager. Okay. Also, the Food Hub they're getting ready to launch out there. in Fitchburg.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Also,
the Pittsburgh Public Market.
and also and similar to the Worcester downtown bid, or the new what do you call it? The vision, for Worcester, what do you call it? I forget. Well, anyway, they have a similar project now in Fitchburg as well. So my friend was like, "Hey, if Worcester doesn't want you, Fitchburg does."
Yeah.
So we're gonna
100%.
start. We're gonna branch out there too to see how we can grow. So I do hope that there is some alignment with the food hub, because to be honest with you, and I'll state this on record, I applied last year and this year for their project where they'll fund people who are interested in becoming like a food vendor or start a food business.
Yeah,
And I
equity
was
and food program.
either time. So I'm curious as to why both times my application was rejected. So I'd love to have a conversation with Shaun to figure out how, as an organization, we could collaborate for something bigger picture long term.
Yeah, be him or Rob. I know there's a lot of interest in the program, so it could just be that there's a lot. Just full disclosure, I get asked to go talk to that group. I've been asked to talk to the group multiple years. I just went 3 weeks ago and had an awesome conversation with the people. Like every year there is loaded, and it's such a broad facing group, both in ages and backgrounds. And I can't say enough nice things, but I can appreciate having that feeling. You know that I am a fan of both you, your work, and your vision. You know you have a terrible name for your festival, right? Like, it's terrible, Jeff.
Why?
You have to do so much education because people are going to keep asking you if you're going to have a Renaissance fair is a thing. It's already a thing. I think you just need a better name because what you're doing is fucking awesome and it needs the attention it deserves. You are going to constantly be up against having to explain to people that there aren't going to be leads at this thing.
Yeah, that there's no knights and tights. Okay, listen.
Or you
All right.
mix up your fit.
No, I get it, but I understand that. Trust me. I had a guy apply. He said, "Hey, I do leather," and I'm like, "Okay, wait. It's not okay. It's not okay." So, but there needs to be a certain awareness of Black history, and there was
I agree.
The Harlem Renaissance, and people need to understand that. So it was kind of a risk that I was willing to take, that I am willing to take. But if somebody comes up with a more catchy name,
I think we need a better name for what's going on, right? Because the Worcester Renaissance is something that has happened multiple times and failed over the past few years, or not few years, but decades upon decades, right? And like, there's not a good word to describe what this actually is. What were you gonna say, Bill?
I was gonna say maybe just let the LARPers show up, and that might even be more fun. You get a couple weirdos dressed like King Arthur, and it's unexplainable and contributes to the overall vibe of the whole thing. I don't know, but you do run that. We should tell you that you do run that risk because these Renaissance Fair folks, they're going to be wanting their turkey legs. They're going to want to see some knights
Flagons
on
of
horseback. They're going to want flagons of mead, and they are not going to check in on whether it's a Renaissance fair or something else. So, I mean, if you like it, if you want that, and I think that it might be a strange sort of positive type situation, then I think
no such thing as bad publicity. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
yeah.
With knights and tights, looking for turkey legs and a keg, they might be sorely surprised to find some lembes and some oxtails. You know what I'm saying, and whatever.
Right,
else,
but they might like what they like. You might turn them on to something they haven't tried before, and they'll be like, "Oh man, oxtail is fucking great."
I respect it. Back when I was in my band days, we played with a band called the Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza, and we pre-sold a show, completely sold out a show with them, and then 2 weeks before the show it turned out that one of the local senior centers saw the name and had bought a bunch of tickets for their people, and then when they realized that it was a death metal band with a guy with a skullet leading the charge, asked for refunds.
They just thought it was Tony Danza?
They genuinely thought it was Tony Danza's Tap Dance Extravaganza.
That's so cool.
And Vengeance Over Victory.
That's awesome.
main for you. But anyway, there's I've been meaning to tell you about that. Sorry to do it here on air, but I mean,
It's
fuck
all
it.
right.
Maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe this is a good conversation starter.
Yeah,
think
man.
that-
You know, like so many things before in time over time. If like, you know, well, they thought the person was crazy until they did it. You know what I mean? Then they got it. So for what it is, I mean, at least until April 27th, this is what I'm rocking with. You know what I mean? And hopefully other people get it, and we'll see what comes of it. You know, that's the purpose of branding. Which, by the way, again, Travis, thank you so much for the logo, at least of our organization. And maybe I should hit you back up for the fair.
You know, you got support from us. Hunchback Graphics. would love to
Have
support.
Travis do a logo where it's a knight in shining armor with like a X through it. Like
The Blackest Night.
All right. All
Hey,
right.
you remember that movie with Martin, the Black Knight?
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
exactly what I was
yeah.
picturing. Oh, it was Black
Yeah.
Knight, not the Blackest Night. Sorry, Black Knight.
Hey, that was meant by do 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 do.
Maine South Mom just mentioned
Awesome.
something that's hilarious. That if anyone knows Brian Goslow, you need to ask him to show you this photograph. But he has a picture from the old Highland Street Renaissance Fair, which used to be like in the parking lot that is now the sole proprietor. But the folks who put it together, they creatively just put the tiniest space between high and land that like the average normie wouldn't notice. But it was actually not the high. It wasn't the Highland Street Renaissance. It was the Highland Renaissance Festival, and it's fucking awesome if you can actually find some of the photos of the old T-shirts that
That's
like only a designer would notice it, but it was exactly what it was advertised as, and could never possibly happen today.
Just open smoking and people.
Highland Street was a lot more bohemian back in the 70s and 80s than anything in our lifetimes. Yeah.
That's interesting. I would love to see that.
That is fascinating.
Well, hey, gentlemen, I appreciate. Thank you for the call, Travis. I mean, I don't mean.
Yeah, I'm glad we made this happen. No, this is perfect.
But I need to get the word out, and thank you for this platform to do that. And
Oh, yeah,
it's
dude.
really about positivity, man. You know, it's really about empowering people and enriching the city, enriching the culture, empowering the youth, giving people something to look forward to. That's beyond just a one-time cultural event. We're really trying to start a movement here, and so I'm excited about to see where it goes, despite the challenges with the red tape. I believe that I've cut through a lot of that already, and now I just need the support of the community. We brought awareness to what the issues are, so it's now it's time to have that collaborative conversation. I'm looking for the city to reach out so we can like dissect this a little bit, and come up with something innovative, come up with something new, and really put Worcester on the map as the face of diversity, equity, and inclusion, if you will, and a true cultural renaissance.
Yeah,
Awesome.
That sounds music to my ears, man. I love it.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I'm gonna hit you up sometime this week, and maybe we can have a more private talk for Worcester Sucks. I think this is a good story here. So,
And I love it.
yeah, hell yeah.
awesome.
It's hard to remember that part sometimes, to be honest. The
But, you
part,
just
but
keep the
you
faith,
got it.
man, and just know that God has given us all different gifts and talents, and it's a matter of us pursuing our purpose so that we can benefit the rest of our society, our community. So God bless you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And
How can people find you on socials?
my name, minus the R&E, just Jeff Killebrew on Facebook. Fam Jam, that's FAMJAM Event Group 2024 on Facebook. On Instagram, it's Fam Jam EVTGRP. I don't use Snapchat and TikTok, but it's still the same thing over there. Fam Jam EVTGRP. Looking for interns, looking for volunteers who can handle the social media stuff. But
Yeah, I can simplify social media handles for them.
Yeah, just I'm creating the value. You know what I mean? Creating the meat of what it is, and we'll eventually get around to the publicity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great. That's great.
Well, I think highly of you, sir. Thank you for doing
God
this.
bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on, man. Appreciate the time.
Peace. Now, do I log off, or you gonna kick me off, or what? I don't know.
You
No,
can
okay,
just blog
bye.
off.
I think that's a good place for us to call it too. What do you think?
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
down.
agree.
Yeah.
Bill's
The-
Bill's in
the
accounting
fire-
mode, and I feel like we're just distracting him, and he might be on fire right now.
How
No,
can you
that's
tell
me.
I'm in accounting mode? How can you tell?
You told us.
I'm into almost September on my my expenses, so I'm kicking ass right now.
Hell yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck finishing that up.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody is following Bill so that you give him more money to make his taxes harder next year, because it'll be really funny if he has to explain more money next year. So
Yes,
Bill
that's
Shane
right.
about Substack. Just pwn him so hard by throwing money at him.
Yes, I love that idea. I would hate it so much if you guys signed up for a subscription. Don't do that.
Yeah, that would be so funny. Like, it would be really funny, Jay Given.
Yeah, Jay Given, Red
make sure you
Metro,
follow-
subscribe. Don't subscribe to me. I won't want you to subscribe. Please don't.
Follow us on Instagram. Follow the Comedy Boys. They're coming back from New Orleans at the moment, or Brian is. I think Shaun's still here. Follow us on Twitch. If you don't, subscribe. I did have loaded up just in case the latest episode of The Buzz, but we could save that for next week because there's no meeting again next week. So I think we should do this again. This is pretty fun.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a fun time.
All right. So open call next week. So if you didn't get on this week, we'll get you on next week. Brian will be back. And until then, we'll see you next Tuesday, unless anybody else has something.
See you next Tuesday.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.